Hi everyone, today we shall discuss regarding timer and also PLL. Okay, some MCQ questions and some important have listed. First question is pulse stretching time delay. Pulse stretching time delay and pulse generation are all easily accomplished with which type of multivibrator circuit? So that is a monostable. So remember, monostable pulse stretching, time delay and also pulse generation are all easily accomplished with which type of multivibrator, means it is a monostable. What control the output pulse width of one shoot? That is an RC time constant. What controls the output pulse width of one shoot? That is RC time constant. Next question is the internal circuitry of the 555 timer consists of dash and RS flip-flop, a transistor switch, an output buffer amplifier and an voltage divider. So that is a two comparator. Okay. So a 555 timer consists of what? Two comparator, an RS flip-flop, transistor switch, an output buffer amplifier and voltage divider. So these will be in the 555 timer. So once again I repeat, comparator, two comparator, flip-flop, that is RS flip-flop, a transistor switch, output buffer amplifier and voltage divider. So 5. Okay. Next, what is the difference between an astable multivibrator and monostable multivibrator? So the astable is free running. The astable is free running. What is the function of the comparator in the 555 timer circuit? So why we should use a comparator in the 555 timer? So to compare the input voltage to the internal voltage divider. So what it will do means it will compare the input voltage to the internal voltage. So it will compare the input voltage to the internal voltage divider. Next question is the output of the astable circuit. The output of the astable circuit, what you will get? Output constantly switches between two states. Constantly switches between two states. That is the astable circuit. The output of the astable circuit is constantly switches between two states. The dash is defined as the time of the time the output is active divided by the total period of the output signal. So that is a duty cycle. So the answer is duty cycle is defined as the time the output is active divided by the total period of the output signal. So that is a duty cycle. With the most monostable multivibrator, what is the Q output when no input trigger has occurred? So the answer is set. With most monostable multivibrator, what is the Q output when no input trigger has occurred? The answer is set. What does the discharge transistor do in the 555 timer? So what it will do, discharge the transistor? It will discharge the external capacitor to start the timing over again. So discharge the transistor, what it will do? It will discharge the external capacitor. It will discharge the external capacitor to start the timing. Okay. Discharge the external capacitor to start the timing over again. The monostable multivibrator circuit is not an oscillator because monostable multivibrator circuit is not an oscillator because it requires a trigger to obtain an output signal. So monostable multivibrator, it cannot become a oscillator because it requires a trigger to get a output signal. Next, free running frequency of unstable multivibrator, that is, you can see the equation F equals to 1.45 divided by RA plus 2RB into C, or if you want to write in time, T equals to, so T equals to 1 divided by F. If you do, you'll get the same equation, T equals to 0.69 into RA plus 2RB into C. Pulse width, W equals to here 1.1 into R into C seconds. F equals to, already we have written the same equation, that is, so this is a 555 timer, 1 is a ground, 2 is a trigger, 3 is a output, 4 is a reset button, and 5 is a control voltage, 6 is a threshold, 7 is a discharge, 8 is a plus VCC. So 1 ground, 2 is a trigger, that is what we give input, okay. So 3 is a output, 4 is a reset, 5 control voltage, 6 threshold, 7 is a discharge, 8 is a VCC. So here in the IC 555 timer, that is, it uses two comparators, voltage divider 3R, that is, due to voltage divider, the voltage of an non-inverting terminal of comparator 2 is fixed at VCC divided by 3. For threshold greater than 2 by 3 VCC, and for flip-flop set Q high, output at pin 3 is low. For trigger less than 1 by 3 VCC, flip-flop reset Q low, output at pin 3 is high. So for threshold greater than 2 by 3 VCC, it is Q is high and flip-flop is set, okay. If it is greater than 2 by 3 VCC, the flip-flop will be set, Q will be high, and the output at pin 3 you will get a low. But for trigger, that is less than, okay, so less than 1 by 3 VCC, reset Q low, output at pin 3 is high. Supply voltage between 4.5 and 16. Duty cycle, that is T low divided by capital T into 100. That is, if you want to calculate in percentage. 555 timer in monostable application mode can be used for speed control and measurement. This question was asked in the VTU ETR 2020. Okay. This question was asked in the VTU ETR. A 555 timer in monostable application mode can be used for speed control and measurement. TC equals to 0.693, what we have written before, okay. So here 2 into RB you should get. Next, a monostable circuit can be used as a frequency divider if the timing interval is adjusted to be longer than the period of the input signal. So monostable circuit can be used as a frequency divider. So we can use it as a frequency divider if the timing interval is adjusted to be longer than the period of the input signal. So you can observe the figure there. Input signal and the output, okay. If you compare the T value, so they are saying if the timing interval is adjusted to be longer than the period of the input signal, so then only we can use it as a frequency divider. Pulse width modulation, that is monostable multivibrator with a modulating input signal applied at the control voltage input, that is pin 5. Control voltage is adjusted to the, that is 2 by 3 VCC. In order to get a pulse width modulation, we need to adjust control voltage is adjusted to what? 2 by 3 VCC. Input is trigger, that is we have given, and we get the pulse width modulation. Next, a linear ramp generator. So if you want to get a linear ramp generator, when a capacitor is charged with a constant current source, then linear ramp is obtained. So when we get a linear ramp, so we should connect a capacitor. Capacitor is charged with a constant current source. Capacitor should be charged with a constant current source, then only we get a linear ramp. Missing pulse generator. So here, how is replaced by a constant current source, then we get a linear ramp generator. Missing pulse detector, it is the application is heartbeat, continuous slow going pulses of the period less than the timing interval do not allow capacitor to charge up to 2 by 3 VCC. In case of missing pulse, capacitor charges up to 2 by 3 VCC and forces output voltage into its low state. So continuous low going pulses of the period less than the timing interval, it will do not allow capacitor to charge up to 2 by 3 VCC. In case of missing pulse capacitor, okay, in case of missing pulse capacitor charges up to 2 by 3 VCC and forces up output voltage into its low state. So you can observe the figure here, graph what I have mentioned, okay. Pulse position modulation, sorry, I have done, it should be modulation. Pulse position modulation, UTP, that is equals to 2 VCC divided by 3 plus V mod. 555 timer monostable application mode can be used for speed control measurement. And next is how to overcome mistriggering on the positive pulse edges in the monostable circuit by connecting a differentiator at the input. How to overcome the mistriggering on the pulse positive edges in the monostable circuit means if we need to connect a differentiator at the input. Applications of astable multivibrator. So applications of astable multivibrator is square wave generator, astable multivibrator, square wave generator. To get a 5% duty cycle, modified timer circuit, okay, modified timer circuit. And next, voltage control oscillator, that is when the voltage control will be high, capacitor takes more time to charge and discharge, then frequency will be less. Voltage control will be less, capacitor takes less time to charge and discharge, and frequency will be high. Frequency shifting keying, that is fix F1 and 0. Distal input high, that is T off. Distal input low, that is T on. In that RP is parallel with R1. 555 timer as a skimmer trigger. Okay, if you want to use a 555 timer as a skimmer trigger, then when sine wave of sufficient amplitude greater than VCC divided by 6 is applied to the circuit as input, it causes the internal flip-flop to alternatively set and reset. Due to this, circuit produces the square wave at the output. Frequency output same as input. It can operate with input frequency up to 50 kilohertz. This is about the timer. So if you want to use 555 timer as a skimmer trigger, then the amplitude should be greater than VCC divided by 6 is applied to the circuit as a input, and that will cause the internal flip-flop to alternatively set and reset. Due to this, circuit produces the square wave at the output. And if you want to linear ramp generator, we should use a capacitor. The capacitor should be charged with a constant current source, right? And if you want to get a pulse width modulation, the monostable multivibrator with a modulating input signal applied the control voltage input. Control voltage is adjusted to the 2/3 VCC. So this is regarding the timer. In next video we shall discuss with the PLL.